Hi everybody, this is Bonnie with Bonnie Bay Crochet, and today I want to show you how to make my directionally challenged super scarf. As you can see, this features 8 large granny squares which are crocheted using a special yarn that is color changing, so you don't have to hide all those loose ends at the end of every round. It's crocheted in a style where the front side of the stitch faces continually, and I'm also featuring the arrow stitch, hence the term directionally challenged. You can make this with the yarn that I recommend, or you can use yarn from your stash, whether it be yarn that you want to change at the end of every round. You can certainly do that, or just even solid colored yarn. Whatever you have, I just recommend. You can even just go yarn shopping in your stash for this one. Okay, it does feature some fun tassels at the end, so you can get as creative as you would like with that. Let me go ahead and show you what I used for this scarf. For this project, I'm going to be using 2 types of Noro brand yarn. Of course, you may substitute whichever types of yarn that you prefer, but I am using Nishiki. This is a light worsted weight yarn, and it is 77% cotton, 23% polyamide. Has a lovely color change that you'll be seeing in just a minute. I used 2 of these hanks for this project. I also complemented it with the Sonata, which is a blend of cotton, viscose, silk, and polyamide. This is a thinner yarn. This is a number 2 weight yarn, but if you wanted to substitute with a number 4 weight yarn, that would be fine. Just be careful about your gauge and make sure that the sizes of the swatches that you're making are adequate. And I only used 1 of these for this project. I'm also recommending that you have a size H or 8 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook, or whichever you prefer to satisfy the yarn that you're choosing. And as always, if you can have a pair of scissors and a yarn needle handy for hiding loose ends. There are not going to be as many as there would be with a traditional granny square project, but there are going to be a few, so make sure that you have one of those so that you make that job nice and fast and easy. To begin, we're going to chain 4. And we're going to join with a slip knot to that first chain that we made. We make a little donut, and we're going to chain 3, and we're going to work all of these stitches in this first round into the center of this little donut, or what I like to call a Cheerio. So we're going to double crochet 2 double crochets, and just for the record, this chain 3 does count as a double crochet in this project, or at least in this square that we're making right now. Then we're going to chain 2, and then we're going to work 3 more double crochets into the center. And I am trying to work this a little bit on the tight side. Okay, chain 2. And then 3 more double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, chain 2, and then 3 more. This is pretty much going to be it's going to be the traditional granny square, although there are so many different ways to crochet these, so I would definitely pay attention at least for a few rounds, and then you're probably going to be good to go. So chain 2, and now I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the top of that chain 3, which again is acting as a double crochet in this project. Okay, so now we're going to do something interesting, and we're going to try to keep the front side facing all the way in all of these rounds, and this is how we do that. We're going to slip stitch in each stitch until we get to the next chain 2 corner, and we slip stitch into that chain 2 corner. Then once we do that, we are going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then now we're going to make corners in each of the chain 2 spaces, and this is how you do this. Again, the chain 3 counts as a stitch, and then we're going to add 2 double crochets to that, thereby making a 3 double crochet cluster. Chain 2, and then in that same space we're going to work 3 more double crochets. Let me pause and show you what that looks like. Chain 1, and then we're going to do that again in this corner and in every corner around. 3 double crochet. See, this time we have to do 3 double crochets because we don't have that chain 1 standing in as a double crochet. So it's a multiple of 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, and then 3 more double crochets. Chain 2, and in that same chain 2 space we're going to work 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Let me pause so you can see what we have so far. Chain 1, and then in the last corner we do that again. 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And you see the yarn color is starting to change a little bit here. So this is what we have, and then we're going to chain 1, and we're going to join with a slip stitch to the first stitch of the round, which is the top of that chain 3. And again, we're going to slip stitch, slip stitch, stick the hook in, pull a loop through, pull a loop through. We're not wrapping the yarn. Pull it through, all the way to that chain 2 corner, and then we're going to do it again. Chain 3. Now wherever you have the corners, you're going to work what we worked here. 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. But when we get to the spaces in between the corners, we're going to just work 3 double crochets. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have the chain. Remember that counts as 1 double crochet, so that's 2 and 3, chain 2, and then we're going to work 3 more. 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and now working in between the clusters, we're just going to work 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 1, and we come to a corner again. It's very important that you pay attention to where you are in this design, because it's very easy to just put 3 stitches in the corner and keep going, and then find out at the end of the round that something does not look quite right and have to rip some work out. So just just pay attention to where you are in the design, just visually, and you should be fine. Chain 2, and since we're at that corner, we're going to work 3 more double crochets into the corner. Chain 1, and 3 more double crochets that's in between the clusters. Chain 1, and again we get to the corner and you know what to do. 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets, and again chain 1 and 3 in between the clusters. Now the only thing that's going to change is you add additional rounds, is that you're going to have more clusters across, so you'll be working 3 double crochets in each of the spaces between the clusters, and it's only in the corners that you work the 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. And I must say, while I know many of you may not be really big granny square fans, and I totally understand that, I have just loved working with this particular type of Noro yarn that does all the color changing for me, so that I'm not going to have to hide a bunch of loose ends. And you'll see once the project nears completion just how each square is going to look different from the other squares, but yet complementary because they are, you know, basically the similar and same colors. Okay, chain 1. So they're going to be similar, but not exactly the same. All right, so join with a slip stitch to that first stitch. Pull it all the way through. And then I'm going to slip stitch my way in each stitch to the corner. Slip, stitch, slip, stitch. And I'm going to do it all over again. So I'm going to just do this corner with you once more. Double crochet, because again, I know I'm repeating myself. The chain counts as a double crochet, so that's 1, 2, 3 stitches, chain 2, and then 3 more in that same space. Okay, so let's just work one side and I'll show you what I mean. Chain 1. So now in this round we're going to have 2 places where we work in between the clusters, and when we do that we simply work 3 double crochets. Okay, chain 1 in between the clusters, and then 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to chain 1, and then we're on to another corner, so on and so forth. So let's stop and take a look at what we have. So this is, let me show you how to count the rounds. 1, 2, 3, and I'm on my 4th round right now. So you're going to continue in this pattern stitch, doing exactly what I showed you, until you have a total of 7 rounds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 3 more rounds. So let me show you an example of a completed 7 round square, and you can see just how different that looks from this one, and it's all coming off of the same yarn ball. There are no extra strands to hide. Of course, there's going to be a couple. There's going to be the one here at the beginning, and of course, or just at the end of that square. And this one I can just go ahead and trim because I've already crocheted around them, so I don't even have to worry about that one. All right. So this definitely minimizes the hiding of all those strands. I think it brings in beautiful color in a creative way. And then we're also going to work another section that's going to be complementary to this design, and we're going to bring in our arrows, and let me show you how to create those. So you should have enough yarn to make 8 of these squares. Now if you want to make your project larger, you can always add more yarn to this, but that's really up to you. So just make sure that if you're going to add squares more than what I'm including in my design, that you have extra yarn so that you're able to complete your project. Now I want to show you the arrows that we're going to be making. And of course, depending on how you place them in your project will determine which direction that they point in. We're going to make several, and look across the bottom of your screen and I'll tell you exactly how many. We're going to make with the 9 arrows, and then we're going to make several with the 7 arrows, which is the one below here. Of course, we're going to be starting with different stitch counts for each of these. So the procedure for making them, whether it's the large one, the longer one with 9 arrows, or the one with 7 arrows, is pretty much exactly the same, except for the starting stitch count that we're going to use on our chain. So I'm going to just show you how to do this with one particular stitch count, but you can just go ahead and make the others as well. So let me go ahead and start with the smaller one. Okay, this is the one with 7 arrows. We're going to start with our slip knot. And we're going to start with a starting chain of 31 stitches. Now the only difference between the shorter one starting with 31 stitches and the other one, which has 9 arrows, is that the other starting chain will have 39 stitches. Okay, so just keep in mind how many of the short arrows swatches you're making and how many of the long. Okay, so for each of these we're going to start in the second chain from the hook, and we're going to single crochet in each stitch all the way across. For the short samples you're going to have 30 stitches. For the long 9 arrow sample you'll have 38 stitches. I am not counting the chain 1 at the beginning of the row at all. Okay, so go ahead and work those single crochets all the way across. This is what you should have after completing the first row, and if it's a little bit curly, don't let that worry you, because that's going to come out as we work additional rows. We're going to turn, chain 1, and for this row it's an easy row. Just work 1 single crochet in each stitch across, and we're going under both loops, just to be clear, or under the V. So go ahead and work that all the way across. Stitch count will remain the same throughout. So this is what we have after completing 2 rows. Now this is the row where we're going to work the arrow stitch, and this is going to be arrow stitch row 1. We're going to start with the chain 2, and this does not count as a stitch in this particular swatch, and we're going to work a double crochet in that first stitch. Now working the arrow stitch, we're going to prepare our hook for a treble crochet, skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to treble crochet in that next stitch. Now working behind the treble crochet, we're going to double crochet in each of these 3 stitches. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap our hook, and we're going to pull that treble crochet down so that we can work in the stitches that we skipped. So we're going to work 3 double crochets, 1 in each of the next 3 stitches. And that's what we're going to repeat across the row. Skip the next 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, treble crochet in that next stitch. Working behind that treble, we're going to double crochet. I just want to show you that I'm working behind the stitch. Double crochet in those 3 skipped stitches. And we're going to do that one more time. We're going to do this all the way across the row until we have 7 arrows, or half arrows as it were. Skip the next 3 stitches, treble crochet in that next stitch. Working behind that stitch, we're going to double crochet. So treble crochet at first and then double crochet, which is the shorter stitch behind that treble. So this treble crochet, let me finish here. That treble crochet is going to give us a really nice surface texture to enjoy. And it's going to show us the arrows and directions all the way around the scarf. Skip the next 3 stitches and treble in that next stitch. And again, working behind that treble, double crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So go ahead and work that all the way across, or until you have 7 arrows for the shorter swatches. And if you're working the longer swatch, you'll have a total of 9 arrows begun. At the end of this row, you should have 1 single crochet left. Just go ahead and work a double crochet in that last stitch. And again, this is what you should have if you're working the short swatches with 31 stitches or chains to begin. If you're working the longer, you'll have 9 of these arrows begun. Now we're going to turn, chain 2. Again, this does not count as a stitch in this particular project. Double crochet in that first double crochet, and now working in the arrows, prepare for a treble. Skip those 3 double crochets that you see, and the next stitch is actually going to be working in the treble crochet from the last row. We're going to work a treble crochet there, and now working in front of that stitch where before we worked behind it. Now we're going to work in front of this stitch. So this stitch will be behind what we're going to do now. We're going to work a double crochet in each of those 3 stitches that we just skipped. This might be a little bit tricky. Make sure you just work in those top loops and that last stitch as well. Make sure you're just working in those top loops. And let's do that again. We're going to repeat that all the way across. Skip the next 3 stitches, treble crochet in the next, and you can check to be sure that yes, you were working in the treble crochet from the previous row, and working in front, double crochet in each of those 3 skipped stitches. We do this one more time. Skip 3 stitches, treble crochet in that next stitch. Working in front of that treble, we're going to double crochet in each of the 3 skipped stitches. And let's pause. This is what it should look like from the back side, but when we flip it, you see these beautiful arrows on the other side. So go ahead and continue working that all the way across the row. At the end of this row, we work a double crochet in that last stitch. Let's take a look at what the back side should look like. And then when we turn around, we see 7 beautiful arrows. On the shorter swatches, again, if you're working the longer swatches, you'll have 9 arrows. Now for the last 2 rows, they are the same. We're simply going to chain 1, and we're going to single crochet in each stitch all the way across. And you will have 30 stitches. Again, the stitch count has not changed. 30 stitches in each of these rows for the short swatches, and you'll have 38 stitches in each row for the long swatch. So I'm going to go ahead and finish both of these rows of single crochets, and I'll show you how to fasten off. After crocheting that second row of single crochets, we're just going to do a chain and a tug, and we're going to clip a generous strand so that this will be easy to hide within our work. And this is what you should have after completing this. And again, 7 arrows for the shorter pieces, and you'll have 9 arrows for the longer pieces. So go ahead and make the required number of the short and the long swatches with the arrows, and then we will put this all together. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to join these pieces. This would be the 7 arrow piece and the granny square. But right now I'm going to show you a simpler version, which I think is going to maximize the use of this beautiful color changing yarn. I've gone ahead and made my slip knot, and we are just going to simply use the slip stitch. And we're going to do this by putting our hook through, starting with the chain 2 corner and the first stitch. This is working along the foundation chain, so you're going to have to be careful as we work this to work in each stitch across. So I'm going to bring this through, give it a chain, and I'm actually going to give it a little bit of a tug. The only thing about this stitch is you're going to have to be careful to keep even tension. There is a tendency to become very tight on this, so you want to not become too tight. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to stick our hook in to the first stitch and into the next stitch on that foundation chain, and pull the loop through, pull the loop through, and do it in the next stitch and then the next. Keep in mind that the front sides are facing upward, the back sides are facing as we do this. And we're just doing slip stitches. Going to the next stitch, slip, stitch, and then we're going to go into the chain 1 space and into the next stitch, slip, stitch, and then back into the double crochets. And you can see, even with the differences in yarn size, this still works. So if you wanted to even pull some just scraps from your stash of even different sizes, I would stay away from the extreme bulky. I don't think that's going to work as well, but if you have enough, maybe it will. But just to show you that you can combine even different sizes of yarn in this particular project, and I think it will look very amazing and very unique depending on the colors that you choose. All right, let me just pause a minute, and I'm going to show you how this join is going to look, which is kind of cool in that we're not losing the color of this beautiful color changing yarn even in the seam, and we see this nice even seam here. And I think this is going to really look nice with this yarn. So go ahead and finish this all the way to the end, and then I'll show you how to connect the next piece. After I come to that last stitch, I join those in the chain 2 space. Just give it a chain and a tug, and clip a decent size thread so that it will be easy to hide using the yarn needle. And let's go ahead and take a look at this beautiful seam. And I will say, what I like about the seam is it's colorful. You obviously see the seam, which traditionally would be on the wrong side, but I kind of like it because you see the colors and it has this beautiful raised texture. And I think that is just going to accentuate the beauty of the yarn that is used. Okay, so now we're going to join the next piece. And again, be mindful of the direction of the arrows. Of course, you can't really make a mistake here, even if you put the arrow in the wrong direction, but I'm going to try to have the arrows going up, and then I'm going to take a right turn just like this, which means sometimes you're going to be working in the foundation chain as you join these. Sometimes you're going to be working in the top stitch, depending on how this particular swatch is placed, because you're going to go up and then over as you go, throughout this project. And so what we're simply going to do is, again, front sides are facing up, and then we put the back sides facing together, and we're going to join stitch by stitch. And let me just give you an idea of the counts. From the chain 2 space all the way to this chain 2 space will be 29 stitches. And so you'll be working over 29, and then you will have 9 stitches in which to finish to this corner. And that way these will look nice and even. So by starting from the right and lining it up stitch by stitch, this swatch should match perfectly. And if ever it's off by a stitch or so, it's very easy just to go work in the next stitch. It's not a deal breaker in any way, shape, or form. All right, so let me go ahead and start this one again by putting the hook in the chain 2 space and in that first stitch. And let me grab my yarn supply right over here. And we're ready to go. Make our slip knot. And again, make that chain 1. Put it a little bit tighter if you would like. And then we begin in the next stitch with our slip stitch, and we're just simply going to work that all the way across. So go ahead and finish putting these together, and then I will show you how to work the border stitch. I wanted to share some additional pointers when you're slip stitching these together. In order to get the seam on the outside like this, make sure that as you're connecting these that you are working going into the granny square first, so that you end up with that seam. Now if you don't want that seam to be showing, then just disregard that, and you're going to want to connect it on this side. But I kind of like the seam contrasting with the yarn, so I'm going to do that. And also you may want to put or connect these along the sides of the square and then add them to the in the order that you're connecting them. Let's say, for example, connect the seven arrow section along the side of the granny square, and then you can join the 9 arrow section on top of that. All right, so you may not go in exact order on all of these. In fact, you may want to just go ahead and attach the 7 arrow side to the various sides first, and then connect them with the longer 9 arrow pieces in between. And again, following the diagram that I posted earlier. Now that I've finished connecting all of the pieces, I think this is going to be so much fun to wear. Now you do see a lot of strands. Yes, I do have a lot of strands to hide. It won't be as many as it would be if every single color in here represented a loose strand, but yeah, we're going to have several of those. So now we're ready to work the final perimeter round. And again, if you want to work additional rounds, you can, but I think this is going to be plenty, and it's going to give this scarf a unified appearance. Okay, so we're going to work that slip knot and then work a chain 1. And I'm going to give that a little bit of a tug. And then we're just simply going to slip stitch in each double crochet, as well as in each chain 1 space across. And let me go ahead and pull that up a minute. And just like when we were working across the edges, we're going to work 9 slip stitches evenly across on these other rectangular arrow patches through here. Okay, so we're just going to work that all the way around. When you get to the corner, let me see if I can find the corner. Here we go. When we get to the corner, if you wanted to do a chain 1 and then a single or a slip stitch in the same space again, you can, or you can just simply slip stitch evenly around that corner. We are going to be adding fringe for those who want to add fringe to the corners, so it really doesn't matter a whole lot what you work in this particular space because of that. So I'm going to go ahead and work this all the way around the entire length of the scarf, and I will show you the connecting stitch. After working this all the way around the entire perimeter, I'm just going to work another chain into the turning chain, and then I'm going to join with the slip stitch to the first slip stitch, just like that. I'm going to give it a chain and a tug, and I'm going to clip another strand, a nice long strand, so that it'd be easier to hide. So now what I need to do is hide all of the loose strands. There aren't as many as there would be if we had worked each round individually, but I do have some of these green connecting strands, so I'm going to go ahead and hide all of these within the work behind on the back side of the scarf, and then we will add some optional fringe. Now to make the fringe, I'm just going to use a sturdy book that I have on hand, and I'm going to need a sharp pair of scissors, and I'm going to take the remainder of the color changing yarn, and I may actually put several threads of the other thinner yarn that we use to make the arrows, but I just wanted to show you how we are going to do this. I should have mentioned that the length of the book that I'm using is approximately 12 inches, so that when you wrap the yarn around this, you end up with 24-inch fringe, which is what I'm recommending. Now, if you want shorter fringe, you can just use a smaller surface with which to wrap the yarn around. And I just like to use larger rather than smaller. That way, if I want to trim the fringe back down, I can always make it shorter, but I can't always make it longer. Well, I can never make it longer once it's been cut. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're simply going to wrap the yarn around the book. Okay, just wrap. And I'm going to make 5 strands per tassel. And if you want to make more, you can, or fewer. That's an option too. So you can just wrap this many, many times. And then when you are done, then we just clip the yarn like so. And then you're going to have your yarn for your tassels. All right, so go ahead and make, cut the yarn that you need for these tassels, and then I'll show you how to attach them. Now let me show you all the strands that are ready. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select multiple different colors. I'm going to select 5 strands, and I'm going to try to really mix up the colors here so that they're not all the same when I go to attach the fringe. So I am selecting, and again, totally at random, selecting these colors, and it's fine if they are all the same color. It's really whatever you want. I just want it to be just kind of randomly mixed with the colors. All right, so that's pretty close. And remember, now we do have a little bit added in here so that if we need to trim this, we've got plenty of leeway with which to do that. So now I'm going to straighten these out. So now we're going to attach this to the bottom. I'm going to go ahead and start in this corner, and let me show you what we're going to do. We're going to straighten this out, and then we're going to put the ends together so that it's fairly even, and my finger is at the halfway point. We're going to insert the hook from the back side to the front side and pull that down, yarn over all those strands over, and then pull this through gently, and then give it a little bit of a tug until it's secured, and that first group of strands, or the tassel, is now secure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 10 of these along the bottom, one here in each of the openings, okay, here and here. I'm going to put one here, I'm going to put one here, which is about about in the space before where the arrow is at the center, and one here in the corner. You may have to, just insert the hook again from the back and then finish the tassel just the way I showed you. So go ahead and finish the fringe on both ends of the scarf. Well, I hope you enjoyed making the Directionally Challenged Scarf with me today. If you did, I would love to hear from you. Please feel free to comment in the comment section below. God bless. Bye-bye.